know about these people is actually they were part of the same family, and they were gathering around one figure that was the pater familiae, or the householder, and he was the one that gave the name to the family. For example, if it was called Tullius, the name of the family was the Tulli, Marcus, Marci, and so on. And so at first it was just a link, of blood, and soon after it will be just about the alliances. Okay, sorry, but my battery actually died, so I don't know. Maybe I look a little bit different, but let's move on. We talked about the first villages, the first people living on the Roman hills, the 7 Roman hills, and so on. I mentioned before the Lupercale, which is a small cave we sat on the slopes on the Palatine Hill. This place is important because they actually practice some rituals in honor of Luperco, and we don't know actually who this god is. It's probably Faunus, but we actually don't know because we are really early in the history of this area, of these groups. The important thing is that the name Luperco, it's actually it comes actually from lupus, which is the wolf in Latin, and these were rituals in honor of this god to ask him to protect the livestock. And what's important is that these rituals were purification rituals, and they occurred in the middle of February. You have to think about this. The wolf, it's a very important figure in Rome's history, because the female wolf is actually in the legend of Romolo and Remo, and it's the one that actually breastfed them. But again, we're not talking about this, we're not talking about the legend, but just the legend comes from something, and this place is actually really connected to this legend. The fact that we have these rituals practiced actually means that these people were more organized than before, and they were gathering around the religion. This is very important, and we can also find some evidences again in the graves, because we can find some burials on these 7 hills, very similar to the ones that we can find in Colli Albani for the same time. So this made historians actually think that people from Colli Albani probably moved, and they are the same people. They just moved from one place to another. These we know from the sources that the first 3 tribes this population was divided in were called the Ramnes, Titias, and Luceres. Probably the Ramnes, as we said before, for the door into the walls, it comes from the Rumnes, so the Rumnus, so the river in Latin, and this probably means the ones that lived next to the river, near the river. At the end of the 8th century, Sabine people actually came into this area. We cannot talk about a conquer, but actually dominated this area. We know it for sure. Probably the Sabine people were the tribe that was called Titias, and we know that a war a fight was inevitable between the Ramnes and Titius because they both wanted the control of the Tiber. The Tiber was at the time really important because of the trade, the salt trade. This was the salt was very important to actually like maintain, like to keep the food, and was also like one of the biggest trades of that time. This is another point where the history connects and meets the legend, because the fight between the Sabine people and the Ramnes, or the Latin people, call them like whatever you want, actually gave birth to the legend of the rape of the 7 women, which is another one of the most like important and famous like legends in Rome's history. This society in this moment is characterized by a king, or a sort of a king with a sort of senate. We cannot actually call it a king or a senate still. The senate was composed by the padres familiae, the householders, the most important ones, so the older ones, the ones that belong to the older families. Actually, we talked about the 7 hills. Let's just switch it to the 7 kings. The first part of the Roman history is characterized by the monarchy. So we have the 7 kings, and then we have the republic. So the first 4 were probably Sabine. Let's just exclude Romulo for just 1 second and not mention him into this list. So the first 4 ones are Tito Tazio, Numa Pompilio, Tullo Stilio, and Ancomartio. What makes us think that they were Sabine people? The fact that they have double names, like Tito Tazio. Roman people actually, in this moment, don't have the double name. They were probably Sabine people, the people that came actually around the 8th century before Christ. What do we know about these kings? We know that Tullo Stilio actually waged a war against the people from Alba Longa, and this means that they actually, they could actually organize a war, they could actually had some military knowledge. And the Ancomartio actually conquered the area that is the mouth of the Tiber, which is very important, as we said, for the salt trade. How was the army organized? We call it the Curiata organization. Actually, these 3 tribes were divided into 30 curiae. There were 10 curiae for every tribe, and at this time Rome had an army of 3,000 infantrymen and 300 knights, which is actually like, it makes you think probably that these are very low numbers, but for that time actually they are very, very, very big numbers. Rivers in Rome's history are really important, and this is the moment when the first stable bridge was actually built by Ancomartio. These rivers were the borders of the city, of the first inhabited area, the Tiber west, the Aniane east. We say that these rivers were important because people from what nowadays we call Campania came to trade like things with Rome, and even Apennine people came to trade actually the salt. The end of this first like part of the monarchy, after these first 4 kings, we have 3 more. These 3 more that we're gonna talk in another video actually, because it's a little bit of a bigger question. These actually were Etruscan. This is the moment where actually the Etruscan people came and influenced Rome and just dominated, not Rome, sorry, just this area. The first 4 kings actually made a difference in the city. But the Etruscan kings actually were the ones that created the first plant of what we see today in Rome, on what Rome was actually built on. They created a base. I'm talking about like the real plant, the real map of the city, starting from the Roman Forum. So this was the first part of Rome's history, which is actually, I think, it's a little bit long too. So there are gonna be like more videos about it. Of course there are gonna be more videos about it. So tell me if you like it, and if I have to make like shorter videos or longer ones, or if it's just good like that. I don't know, just let me know in the comments if you have some questions, if you want to know more about the legends, and we can just talk about this.